first in a series of webinars that we'll be hosting, introducing Taproot Foundation and the communities that we help to serve through in-depth conversations between a Taproot representative, or a root, as we like to refer to ourselves, and a standout member of our community. So today is the volunteer edition of this series, and we will be joined by Taproot's volunteer community manager, Grace Litzow, and Taproot volunteer, Caitlin Cole. So yeah, welcome everyone. I can see tons of people introducing themselves in the chat, which is great. So yeah, we'll get right into it. So as I said, today we'll be joined by Grace and Caitlin, who will be having a conversation about volunteering with Taproot. And I am Eva Klein. I'm the digital marketing manager here at Taproot. And yeah, just really thrilled to be hosting this webinar today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And before I get really into today's content, I do just want to share a couple of logistical things. So we will also be joined today by my colleague, Christian Maiku, who you may have already seen interacting in the chat. She'll be monitoring the chat during the presentation, so please say hi, introduce yourselves, let us know where you're joining us from. All attendees will be muted, so if you have any questions, please do write them in the chat, and we're going to have some time for questions at the end. So yeah, any questions that come up during the presentation, write them down in the chat, and Kristen will make a note of them and we'll refer back to them at the end. And then lastly, as you can see, we have closed captioning on. If you would like to turn it off, you do have the option to do so. There's a, in the right sidebar, next to it says AV Pod on your device. You can click on the gear icon and toggle off captions. So yeah, let us know if you have any trouble doing that. But otherwise, we will have closed captioning on for today. So let's kick things off. I'm going to start by introducing everyone to Taproot Foundation, who we are, what we do, for those of you who might be new to our organisation. So Taproot is a non-profit that exists to support other non-profits. It was founded back in 2001 with the knowledge that there is a massive resource gap present in the non-profit sector. Organisations who are working towards solutions for the world's most pressing challenges simply do not have the financial means, staff capacity, or support from institutions to carry out these missions to their fullest potential. So that's where Taproot comes in. And our main objective is to close that resource gap by mobilising skilled volunteers from the corporate sector in order to facilitate and democratise access to professional support and resources that non-profits are often unable to afford. So our programs connect business professionals with the opportunities to donate their skills to social causes and are open to all nonprofits across the United States, as well as fiscally sponsored organisations, public schools, public libraries, and this is all regardless of mission area, budget size, or the years that they've been in operation. Inclusive access is a hugely important part of what we do here at Taproot, and we are also working on growing our international presence too. Okay, so a bit more in depth about Taproot for volunteers. Before we hear from one of our volunteers, I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper into what the landscape of volunteering through Taproot really looks like. So over the past 20 years, we've worked with almost 40,000 skilled volunteers in areas including marketing, HR, business development, IT, finance, and operations, to name but a few. We've facilitated over 2 million hours of volunteering, which amounts to around $320 million donated to social causes. Via our Taproot Plus platform, we have over 400 virtual volunteer opportunities listed, which update daily, and that's from over 13,000 organisations. So you can really see the breadth of the work that we do in connecting skills-based volunteers with great social causes. And again, I just want to dig a bit deeper because I've used this term skills-based volunteering a number of times now. So just to define what that really means to us here at Taproot. So we define skills-based volunteering as a donation of one's abilities, talents, networks, and resources to social good organisations, You may also have heard it referred to as skilled volunteering or pro bono consulting, and all of these terms mean the same thing. It's really based around the core idea that giving back using your professional skill sets can support your professional journey while providing truly valuable services to nonprofit organizations in need. As you can imagine, there are countless benefits for nonprofits who choose to work with skilled volunteers, including filling expertise gaps within their organization, thus giving them more time and tools to focus on their missions, adding to their capacity to both serve and grow their community. If they can find support for their organization pro bono, they can focus their funds more exclusively on mission-related work. So yeah, a truly, truly beneficial thing for nonprofits. And then, of course, on the volunteering side as well, benefits include supporting important social causes, expanding your network, developing your resume, and strengthening your skills, which are all subject areas that we're about to dive in deeper with my colleague, Grace Litzel, who will be in conversation with a Taproot volunteer, Caitlin Cole. So over to you, Grace.
Thanks, Eva, and thanks so much for that background. I think it's super helpful to contextualize our conversation for today. And thank you, Caitlin. Thanks so much for joining us. It's so awesome to be able to have a volunteer for people to hear from and like really see what that experience is like. So with that, let's dive right into the conversation. And I would love to start by hearing what drew you to volunteer with Taproot.
I started volunteering with Taproot to keep my skills sharp and practice new skills. So I was actually transitioning from running my business from a freelance basis to a full-time basis. And I like that Taproot already had a network of organizations that needed the skills that I had to offer.
I really appreciate how you mentioned the transitional space you were in and how that kind of led you to volunteering. I think we'll touch on that a little bit more in our conversation, but that's such a common thing we hear from people about why they're interested in volunteering. And it's such a great way to use your skills in maybe a different way or solidify them and be able to practice them in ways you really care about, which is really awesome. Getting into it a little bit more, there's so many ways to volunteer, and there's lots of different nonprofits to go to, different ways to give your time. But why was it important for you to contribute your time using your professional skills?
Yeah, this is actually one of the reasons that I liked Taproot was because it was different from all the volunteering opportunities I had seen in the past. So I think a lot of times when we think of volunteering, we think that we have to be on the ground, like boots on the ground, and you have to be in the schools and be in the food pantries, which are things that I've actually done personally. But I liked that skills-based volunteering allowed me the opportunity to do something that I had probably maybe not mastered, but something that I was really good at and knew that I could get really good results at, which was providing marketing services and brand strategy services. And so skills-based opportunity allowed me the opportunity to also do something that I was passionate about on a day-to-day basis and kind of work it into my work day instead of trying to carve out time for it.
Yeah, and that's such a great way to think about it. It's not, to replace traditional volunteering. It's kind of it goes coinciding with it. And just as Eva mentioned, Taproot works with all sorts of organizations of different sizes, budget areas, missions. But it's really a great way to utilize your skills and feel confident in them, but also be able to contribute to a greater cause, like you had mentioned, which is so awesome. It's a great opportunity. And one of the added benefits of volunteering as a skills-based volunteer is that opportunity to use your skills. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about how volunteering fit into your professional goals and the growth that you kind of had mentioned in that transitional period.
Yeah, so in that transitional period, I was also a young business owner and a young entrepreneur. And so I had a lot of skills that I was trying for the first time, in addition to the skills that I had already done for other organizations and other companies. And I like that volunteering through Taproot allowed me the safe space to hone the skills that I had already done for so long, but also learn and practice new skills. So I like to think of it as like a DIY internship. So you're kind of learning on the job, but you have the space to try new workflows and try new things that maybe you don't have the opportunity or feel comfortable charging for just yet.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point with touching on that flexibility of being able to use the skills kind of in the way you want to. You might not have that opportunity in your typical 9 to 5, and you might be kind of beholden to whatever that job description is like, where this is an opportunity to expand beyond that. And I think that's also a great point to touch on. At Taproot, we highlight that as long as you're comfortable being a consultant independently, then that is a great way to contribute your skills or look into expand them beyond maybe what you do in your day to day. And I think that's just such a great opportunity to grow individually, as you mentioned, and be able to stretch those skills creatively. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I would love to hear a little bit more about building those skills because I think it's something that a lot of volunteers are interested in. So, how did you think about the skills you already have or the skills you'd like to develop when you were deciding to be involved with Taproot?
Yeah, so when picking my projects, I always, of course, lent on the skills that I knew I could do very well. So I went to the skills that are my tried and true, but I also picked one or two skills that I wanted to develop and grow because I wanted the relationship to be mutually beneficial. I didn't want it to just be another organization that goes on my resume, another organization that goes on my LinkedIn. I wanted it to be something that I know that I can help this organization grow so I can help them with their marketing, help them grow and reach more people, reach more donors. But also, I was in turn learning skills that I could use in my own business or use on a day to day basis in the future.
And I love that you bring up that mutually beneficial relationship and kind of going deeper to build that relationship with the people that you were working with. I think that's something that we really value and emphasize at Taproot as volunteers is there's so much that you know and you want to learn and contribute, but there's also a great opportunity to learn from the expertise of the nonprofits you're working with. And we'll talk about that as we jump into the projects specifically themselves a little bit later. But I think it's really awesome to be able to highlight that partnership and that aspect of the relationship as a volunteer. Um, so I guess looking into the approach and the preparation for your projects a little bit more, I think it'd be really interesting to jump off of that and talk about how you picked the projects you did and kind of what led you down that path.
Yeah, so when you're on the platform, you can actually go in and on the Taproot platform, you can go in and say, these are the types of organizations I want to work with, whether it's like for education or children focused or helping women, for example. And I knew going in that I wanted to work with, as a minority female business owner, I wanted to work with organizations that looked like me as well. And so it was important for me to work with them. And then as far as the projects, you can also narrow them down by skill. So of course, looking for like a 90% match with skill set and what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Finding that crossover area between where people's needs are, but also being able to use where your passions lie in terms of female-owned organizations and minority representation. I think that's such a great tip to look where that crossover is. Um, and I think that that's another great opportunity for us to point out that Taproot is cause area agnostic. So we have organizations from all sorts of different missions and passion areas, and you can find wherever that crossover lies for you. There's opportunities to find that. Um, but going more into getting ready for your projects, I would love to hear how you prepared for them, especially given that the work can often be a little bit different when it comes to working with a nonprofit or another type of organization. Yeah, so how did you prepare yourself to go in and work in that partnership?
Yeah, so I prepare for the Taproot projects just like I just like I prepare for any of my paying clients. So I try not to separate them in my mind, just so that way I'm offering them the best quality that I know I have to offer. And so what I do is we meet on the Taproot platform. I select the project I want to work on with the organization that I want to work with. And we schedule a meeting on the platform, of course. It allows you to schedule a Zoom call or a phone call, and you can find a time that works best for you. It's really, really easy, actually. And then we have like a discovery call. So the discovery call that I have is where I get to learn about the organization and also what kind of inspired them to look for marketing support. And we get to know each other, make sure we're a good fit for each other. And then if we decide to work together, we initiate the project on Taproot. And from there, Taproot almost like removes themselves from the picture. So you're able to do the pro bono work and the workflow that you already know how to do. So it allows you to have a lot of autonomy over the situation. And then, so deliver the awesome marketing work. And at the end of the project, we go back to the Taproot platform and we leave a review for each other. And of course, we're still free to connect on LinkedIn and see if we want to work with each other through Taproot in the future.
That's really a great walkthrough of that process, and I appreciate you mentioning what that discovery call looks like, and touching on that the aspect of finding a great fit for you and a great fit also for the organization. I think that goes back to that mutually beneficial relationship point of we want to make sure that the work that the volunteer is doing matches the work that the nonprofit needs, and really create space for that to be a relationship that can grow and have the opportunity to ebb and flow however it needs to fit the nonprofit's needs. But then also knowing that you hold them to the same standards and that quality of work to the same standard as you do your paid clients. I think that's a really important note to touch on. And some of my colleagues at Taproot call that the golden rule of pro bono, which is like that's how you diminish that any sort of power imbalance between the expert and the nonprofit, and make sure that there's a really high quality of work that's done as a volunteer. And I think that's such a great thing to highlight, and so glad that that was your experience. But I think it can also be a challenge just thinking about as you want it to be a really high quality of work, and hold them alongside your current paying clients. How do you balance that in terms of your schedule and being a busy professional?
Yeah, so with the projects, you can see whenever the organization creates a project, you can see about how long they think it's going to take. So they'll say, oh, we have let's say, for an example, an event coming up. We think it'll take about like a month or 3 months to make the materials for this event. But I know personally my own workflow, and I know that projects, any marketing strategies that I do, any brand strategies that I do, usually take me about 2 weeks to complete. And so as long as I have control over how long it takes, I know it takes me 2 weeks to do any project, whether it's pro bono or whether it's a paying client, then I know about how many projects I can take on a quarter or a month. And so with Taproot, I like to set my own goal of taking on 1 to 2 clients a quarter. So that way I have plenty of time to dedicate to them without overwhelming myself with my own work and with the pro bono work.
It sounds like you've done a lot of personal reflection on how to make that fit in your current schedule and almost build it into like your routine. It's something you plan for, and as you build it into that schedule, it becomes kind of just part of the normal day to day of your work, which I think is such an awesome way to approach it. And
Yeah.
I think that's like oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's true. Whenever I'm onboarding a Taproot client, I put them right next to my paying clients in the project management software. So they literally have no difference.
That's really cool. And I think that shows your dedication to making sure that your quality of work is the same, and you use the same time commitment to them, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Going into those projects even a little bit deeper, I think it'd be really cool for us to share some of the specific projects you've worked on. But before we show the work that you've done, which we're so grateful that you've been able to share with us, I would love to hear what it was like to volunteer and like walk through that volunteer experience, and then maybe specifically what it was like to work with each of those different organizations.
Yeah, of course. So the Taproot platform made it super easy to get up and going. And so once I created my profile, which I was actually just able to connect and import my LinkedIn information from, um, I got my first project within a few days of signing up, possibly even the same day, but I can't remember. But it was definitely within a couple of days of signing up. And when I first registered, it did ask me what organizations I'm passionate about. And so I put women's rights, youth development, animals, diversity and inclusion, and then there's like a few. You could pick as many as you want, I think. And then it also asked me what skills I wanted to share. And so I put marketing strategy, social media management, and a couple more that I felt were really appropriate. And then once I got to the point of actually browsing the projects, it actually had already sorted which ones would be a best fit based on my skills and my interests. And so I didn't have to like sort through it again or go through and filter it out again. I still had the opportunity to look at things that I wanted to work on. And then I the first one I decided to work with was Women's Coaching Alliance. And so I clicked on their project, I clicked on their organization and read through the job profile, and I wanted to schedule a call. So I scheduled the call through the Taproot platform. We hopped on a Zoom call, and from that point, it was my entire workflow was just my own doing. And so I took them through the discovery call, I took them through a brand strategy call, I took them through how I create the social media assets that they needed, really understanding their organization and what their donors would be looking for, and what kind of like verbiage would needed to be on the social media in order to make it impactful. And then by the end of it, of course, we enjoyed working together. We were able to close out the project in Taproot and leave reviews for each other.
Thank you for that kind of walkthrough of the journey. I want to show the collateral, the deliverable that you were able to put together for Women's Coaching Alliance, which thank you again so much for sharing that with us. Would you be able to walk us through what this is and what we're seeing and the kind of outcome of it?
Yeah, so Women's Coaching Alliance is an organization based out of California, and they work with young women who play sports to help them develop lifelong skills to become leaders in their fields, whether that's in sports or outside sports. And so when I worked with them, they were actually putting on a panel where they had some of the top women coaches and leaders in the sports industry come and be asked questions about how they build and manage successful teams. And so I helped them create the promotional strategy that included LinkedIn posts, Instagram posts, and digital flyers. And then, of course, they dispersed all of it, and it was so impactful that when they got back to me with the review, when I asked for feedback, of course, they told me that when they did send out the digital email flyers, they ended up getting more responses than they did before when they sent out emails without the digital flyers. And so they ended the panel with 180 guests RSVPing for the fundraising event. So it was super successful.
That's awesome. I think that really goes to show how tangible that impact is. And this is an example of something that you put together for them that had like an immediate impact on the organization. And they were able to kind of increase their capacity by the collateral and the deliverable you put together for them, which is
Yeah.
really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to work on it. And it's different from what I get to do with my paying clients, because this is like an organization that I don't usually work with. So it was really fun and interesting and new for me to kind of challenge my skills in this way.
Yeah, and it seems like the other thing about that is you were able to really learn about the organization in a way that you might not have if you were just doing a traditional volunteering opportunity. You dive into their mission and meet with people that are the leaders of the nonprofit, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And then you worked on another project with Hyde Park School of Dance. And I would love if you could talk through that process and what that looked like, and then we'll show the deliverable from that too.
Yeah, so for Hyde Park School of Dance, this is a totally different project, which is actually kind of funny. So, Hyde Park School of Dance is a dance school out of Chicago, Illinois. They had a website up, but they felt it wasn't communicating the best to current and prospective dancers. So, I worked with them to create a new website layout and help them organize the information that was currently on the website. So, this included website colors that would be easily accessible, but I was still on brand for them. And then also like where to place buttons for better flow, what text to use on which pages. And then by the end of the project, I handed over this nice, beautiful brand strategy document for the website. And they can actually take that to a website developer within the Taproot platform and bring these ideas to life.
That's awesome. And I switched the presentation to show some images of what that looked like. But I think that's really cool to see that in comparison to the Women's Coaching Alliance deliverable, because it shows how you could use the same skills in different ways for the different nonprofit needs. And then also how you touched on you were able to help them with something that then they can go take and use to expand to something else, right? Like they can use this to build out their website or build out other marketing material, which they can also use another volunteer help for, which is really another benefit of working with Taproot as well.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you wanted to touch on anything else from the deliverable side since we have it up on the screen.
I don't think so. I think it was just really exciting that I got to even network and I had the opportunity to even work with these organizations. They're doing a lot of great work, and I feel fortunate that I was able to partner with them to help them expand their reach.
And how do you, kind of on that note, how do you feel about the relationship you were able to build with those nonprofits through that work?
Yeah, so we still check in every now and then. I follow Women's Coaching Alliance and Hyde Park School of Dance on LinkedIn and on Instagram. And so I'm still like interacting with their content. I'm still have the opportunity to work with them in the future. And so we definitely did stay in touch, and we do want to work with each other in the future should anything come up.
That's awesome. And I think to Eva's point in the introduction, that's one of the biggest benefits of being a volunteer in this way is you get to become an advocate, or you get to be really involved in the work as it moves forward, which I think is such a cool opportunity.
Yeah, and I think in a way that feels like kind of like volunteering because you're sharing their mission and you're already working and helping promote um, interests and things that you're already passionate about. So you get to just share it with the wider community.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And the deliverables you showed again point to the real tangible impact that skills-based volunteering can have, which I think is so important to just hammer home. And I wanted to point to kind of the financial value of that we've been able to calculate at Taproot. We have a pro bono evaluation of um, contributing about 1 hour of your time is worth $220, and that's not even to talk about the long-term impact of like building a website and how that could be something that's sustainable over a longer period of time, or using that marketing collateral for an event that brings donors in, and what that goes beyond the work that you contribute in that time. So stepping back from that a little bit, and as we kind of close, I'm curious to hear what you feel like you've learned from skills-based volunteering.
Yeah, I've learned that volunteering doesn't have to look one way. You don't have to even leave your home to volunteer. I was able to create amazing professional work for these organizations from the comfort of my own home, and that I was also able to use my skills in a way that was really meaningful and important for me.
Yeah, and I think, it's so nice to be able to connect to local organizations, but you can also, you've worked with two organizations that were in completely different communities than where you live, but also connected to things that you care about, which I think, to your point, that's such a great way to use your skills. Um, And then just kind of broader, what is it like to be part of the Taproot volunteer community, and kind of what keeps you coming back?
I think what keeps me coming back is that it's a constant opportunity to grow as a professional. That does not mean reading another book. And I have a bookshelf full of like books. Like I love to read, but at some point you do have to kind of implement what you're learning. And so you don't have to read another book. You don't have to go back to school or even do another practice portfolio project. That is a big thing in my line of work where you have these practice clients and they're not real clients, they're practice clients, and you put them in your portfolio. But these people in these organizations on Taproot, these are real clients that are looking for real work. And so I really like that I have this ongoing opportunity to hone my skills and do it in a way that actually creates real results. And so you get to create your own opportunities through volunteering. You get to build your skill and become a strong professional.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much. What a wonderful way to sum up that conversation. And thank you so much, Caitlin, for sharing your experience and your insight, and also being bold enough to put your work out there for everyone to see. Hopefully, that was a good example for people. But I would love to turn it over to anyone who has questions. Caitlin and I are excited to answer some questions. Kind of looking through the list. One that has come up is, are there volunteer opportunities for people to further develop their skills? And I think, Caitlin, this was the theme throughout the whole conversation, is that's really the point of skills-based volunteering, or one of the points of skills-based volunteering, is that ability to use your skills in a little bit of a different way, and to grow them. Is there anything you would want to add about developing those skills, Caitlin?
Yeah, I think what makes it different than maybe like like an unpaid internship, for example, is that you don't have to already be a master at these skills. You don't have to be an expert at these skills. I think Taproot really does create a safe space that you are able to do things that you're already really good at, and then also do things that would be a bit more of a challenge for you.
Yeah, to be able to stretch them, I think, is another key there. Like, you can use ones that you already feel really comfortable with, but you could also feel out what it might be like to work with some different skills.
Mhm.
Um, Another question that has come up, is, what are the most needed skills nowadays? I think that's a really good question. And Caitlin is a great example of the kind of variety of marketing skills that are needed. And that's always a popular need among our organizational partners. Eva also mentioned we work with HR, volunteers, there's a lot of financial needs as well, in terms of getting ready to file for your 990, or also like financial audits, just to make sure that the organization is kind of up to date, and also functioning more at capacity, and being able to like forecast. So that's another popular one. Um, there's also sometimes some leadership development things around board development and other types of organizational growth. But there's new opportunities every day that are being posted. So, and that people check in frequently to see how to use their skills. And you can, as Caitlin mentioned, you can filter through on the website to be able to find opportunities for you. Um, Caitlin, would you like to touch on, I think you also mentioned this a little bit earlier, but how you use the platform, or how you optimize that to find the ones that are the best fit for you?
Yeah, so one of the first questions besides your name and maybe your job title or what you want to identify as, that you get asked is, what are your skills? What do you want to share with the world? And so that's the opportunity for you to go in and say, oh, I want to help with maybe law consulting, or I want to help with HR or leadership development. So that's where you can go in and say what you are and what you do. And then from there, it'll give you projects that are within your wheelhouse.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the best way to do it is to put your skills in and filter through. But also I'll just note that at Taproot, we are always available to help people kind of brainstorm or bounce off in terms of discussing how to find skills that and opportunities that fit your skills best. Um, Another question we got is how can I get started browsing for opportunities? And that's a great bounce off from what Caitlin just mentioned in terms of what you put into your profile. But the simplest way is on our website, there's a browse opportunities option. And we're actually excited to be relaunching a newly designed website in the next couple, in the near future. So look out for that. Um, but that should make it even easier to find that browse opportunities option, and you can dive right in from there. Let's see, I'm looking through to see if there's any other questions that have come up.
I should say as well, thank you so much, Grace and Caitlin. That's been a truly informative conversation and like so many helpful insights. We possibly have time for one more question, but I would also say that anything that's come up that we haven't had a chance to address in the webinar today, we will follow up afterwards and make sure that any queries that have been mentioned and anything that's arisen, we will respond to. And also, if anything kind of comes to mind after the webinar, you can see that we've got up on the slide here, help@taprootplus.org, where you can get in touch with us directly. And yeah, unless, Grace, there's any other questions jumping out at you to answer now. Okay, then I think we will just make sure that we have a list of all of those questions to follow up with you guys afterwards. And yeah, I just want to give our guest speakers today a huge thank you. That was such an informative conversation. As Grace said, we will be relaunching our website in the next few days. So you heard it here first, and that will make all of the features that Caitlin mentioned even more easy to use, filtering via cause and via the types of organizations that you want to work with. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. As I said, it's the first in a series of webinars that we're doing, which is just to like introduce people to Taproot and the work that we do through these conversations, which I hope is helpful for you guys, as even for someone like me who's part of Taproot. And the next one will be with a non-profit spotlighted, which is the 28th of October, so at the end of this month. So yeah, hopefully you guys are able to join us then. And otherwise, yeah, a huge thank you to everyone for joining today, to both of our speakers. And please do, yeah, keep sending any questions that arise to help@taprootplus.org. Okay. Thanks all.
Thank you.